Hey guys, here I am. I'm gonna do a quick video on how I make my molds for my parts for the cockpit. There's different people talking about how they make them. Anyway, I've been doing these a while. I had a friend of mine show me several years ago, and they're, once you get your mold made, they're really simple to do. I've used both the urethane mold rubbers and also what I've finally decided I really like is it's a Plat Seal 7120. It's a RTV silicone rubber. I've used the urethane rubbers before, and I don't like those because you have to spray them with a release agent, and if you got a lot of really tight nooks and crannies in your part you molding, it can get stuck in the mold and ruin your mold. So I've really gone to the rubber. When you do a rubber mold, once you pour your part, the part will not stick to it. It'll just pop out. It'll fall out. I mean, it's just, and they make you can get 40 to 50 pulls out of it before they'll go bad. This one's starting to get older. You can see it's kind of white in the middle. It kind of leaches out the I guess the rubber itself, or the the petroleum products in it over time, and it'll finally get too old to use, and it'll start cracking. But you can see how this is nice and smooth on the outside, but where the liquid plastic touches it, it kind of gets hard. Anyway, the way I do it is, like I said, I use the Plat Seal 7120. It's a two-part. The small 1 pound here runs you about $35 to $40 according where you buy it. I buy it in a larger thing. It runs about $120 to $140 according where you get it. Anyway, and what I do is, like I said, it's a two-part, it's a 1-to-1. First of all, I get my part made. Generally, I make most of my parts out of all wood, and when I do those, you just got to make sure you seal them really well, and make sure whatever you sealed them with is totally dry, because it'll keep the rubber from hardening up around that if it's not good and sealed. I also do spray a release agent on most of them to make them break loose pretty easy, but you can just put the rubber right on, and it'll come out without any problem most of the time. Anyway, once I get the parts made, I go ahead and I put them on a piece of ABS so I can move it around, or plastic, so I can number one, I save the mold, and it's because after so many I'll have to get rid of it. Anyway, these are two wheels for the canopy of a Focke-Wulf. I made one for two different sizes. I started off with a little one. I found out it was too small for the model I'm doing, but I went ahead and going to finish it because there are smaller models out there, and I've got the larger one. But once you get the mold made, you need to make it exactly the way you want it, because that's what your finished product is going to be made. I use Legos. I just build up a dam all the way around it. You just make sure that your molds fit in the middle. Okay, and you want to make it as close as you can with just a little bit of space around it, so you're not wasting the rubber, because it's so expensive. Anyway, once I've got the Legos made, I go ahead and I glue to the plastic itself some balsa to hold that mold in place, because once you start pouring it in there, you can't see where you're going, and it will slide out of place, and you can get the mold too close to one side or the other. Anyway, once I've got this done, I'm to that point. What I do next is I go ahead and I mix up my rubber. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pause, and I'm gonna mix it up, and I'll come back and show you how I put it in. Okay, here I'm back. Like I said, the rubber itself is a two-part. I use little 2 tablespoon cups, and it goes by drams, and I kind of use that. You need to make sure that they're exactly the same amount in the cup of each one, because it makes a difference on how long your mold might last, to make sure, make sure you got the mixture right. Anyway, once you got them in there, you just mix them up really well, and I mix them up for just till I get all the colors just the same, without any seeing the blue or the pink itself. Anyway, you just need to mix it up really well. It says you got about a 20-minute work time with this, and it takes 4 hours for you to be able to pull it out of this mold. And that totally depends on your temperature. If you're over the winter time, I can have them in there 5 hours and it'd still be a little bit tacky. If they've gone over 4 and the top still feels a little tacky, I just put it in front of a little electric heater for just a little while, and that will firm it on up. Anyway, I would invest, if you plan on doing this a lot, some popsicle sticks, because you use these, you can't put them back in. Once I got this mixture, you're going to mess up your stuff. Anyway, generally, the way I was taught is just to take this and pour it in there, and all the little bubbles, because you get bubbles in there. You can see the bubble getting ready to pop right here. But there's a lot of small air bubbles trapped in this mixture. And what I was taught to do is just pour it in there, and what I would end up doing is have little voids, like little air bubbles get stuck to like the top of this handle here. And so one thing I did to kind of make that not as much of an issue is I started brushing them on. I just take the old acid brushes, and I make sure I kind of dab it in, because you want to make sure you get all the air bubbles out that you can. And I make sure I coat the whole part, because this thing will fill with air bubbles. But if you get it brushed on, it tends to make sure you don't get any. Generally, if you get an air bubble, once you pour the plastic in, you can always sand that plastic off. The plastic sands really easily. But you can see I'm just dabbing it in. You want to make sure you get it around the handles good, because that's a little bit of your detail there. But you can see, I don't know if you can even see it or not, but even in this, that's thin air, you got air bubbles that are popping. All right, once we got everything covered, and we feel like we've got it all down in the crevices, and especially if you've got a really intricate part, you need to brush it into the crevices themselves. I just put my Legos back in there. I wipe off the excess because you don't want to waste it, and then we'll take that and I usually just start in the middle and start pouring, and try to make sure that anything like those little pedestals or the little handles that are sticking up, that I'm getting a good coverage in between those. And I generally mix a little bit, like I started here with 2 drams, that's what I'm using, of each one. And I do that first, because you mix up a whole lot. I've wasted a lot in the past, and I just hate wasting this stuff, because like I said, it's expensive when you think about how much other molds you can make. Anyway, what we're going to do is just going to mix up enough that we cover the whole area. Now, one secret I've learned, and a lot of people just leave that and let it settle. Let's see here. They would just let this settle on its own. Now what I've done, I've got an old Dremel scroll saw, and one reason I glue these sides on, I'll go set this on the scroll saw itself and turn the scroll saw on, and I'm holding it down, and what that does, it vibrates it, and it helps all the big bubbles come to the surface and break, and then it allows it to fill in better. You can see that I don't have quite enough plastic in here, or rubber in here, so I'm going to have to mix up a little bit more. I'll probably go 1 dram of each, and fill that area until I don't see those little handles again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get these finished, let this set up, and I'll show you the final product. But like I said, I'm going to fill this in and go over there and get the air bubbles out. But I'll be back when I get this all set up and start to take it out of the mold. Okay guys, I'm back. It's been 5 hours. Here's our mold, or our rubber part, the mold. We're going to take off the Legos. You want to make sure it feels good and dry. I did, after 4 hours, it's just a tad tacky, so I did put a a heater on it for about 15 minutes, firmed it up really nice. Anyway, once we get that done, we just pull all the Legos off, and then I just take it easy and just pop this out, and you have your finished product there. Now you're ready to go. Anything, if you come in here and like this piece right here, if it's got any, like along the edge here, if it's not glued good, if it allows any of the rubber to get up under there, it'll actually be in your end product. If there is any flash there, you just have to come and pull it off, or just take some real fine pair of scissors and cut it off, and it'll be in your so it won't be in your finished product. Anyway, now these are ready to pour for a mold. What I do when you pour this, I use an Easy Flow 60. Let me back this out a little bit. Oops. I use an Easy Flow 60, which is a two-part. It's 1-to-1. This stuff here for a whole a gallon set is 2 1-gallon jugs is about $130. You can get a small set for around $30 to $40, but the Easy Flow 60 works really well. It's got a 2.5 minute pot life, or it starts hardening up within 2.5 minutes. I mean, you got to really work fast. It's like water consistency. When you pour something like this, you need to have you a toothpick or another piece of wood that'll fit down in there, because you have to tap in there to get the air bubbles out to allow them to come up, and it will to fill that void down in there to give you your detail of your handles. Anyway, I hope this shows you really quick how to make parts. I tell you what I'll do is I'm gonna get my stuff together and pour one of these for you while we sit here. But one thing I will tell you about this, if you buy the big jugs like I do, I kind of use it a little bit faster than most people. But I've had this one for a couple months. You can see it starts to harden on its own in the jug. I even keep a nitrogen blanket on it, and it still hardens pretty quickly. So your shelf life on the Part A is a really short time. You've really got to plan on using it. And that's why making some parts for some models is not cost sufficient for some people, because you really have to use a lot of this to make it worth your while. But anyway, I will get some ready to pour up, and I'll pour these two real quick and show you the final product. Okay, I got everything here. I'm going to show you real quickly how I do this. Like I said, I buy these little 2 tablespoon cups, and I mix these up pretty. I use, you can get 2 or 3 mixes out of them before you actually have to throw them away, because the plastic, once it sets up after 30 minutes, it's what it says, demold times 30 minutes, is you have to kind of the plastic will pop out. Anyway, I mixed equal parts. You got to mix it pretty good. Now I keep a big stock of the toothpicks, and I've got some other little wooden pieces I pick up at Hobby Lobby. Anyway, I mix it up. Like I said, this stuff starts getting warm really fast. So what you want to do is you make sure you get that, let it pour in there, go in the hole, and then you have to clean that hole out of any air bubbles. Oops. And you got to make sure you don't over pour. I'll keep something here. Now, if you do over pour, like here, you can see that resin go, or the plastic goes over it. Once that dries, you can just cut that off the back. That won't be a problem at all. I kind of try to get most of it off using a popsicle stick. But and if you down just needing just to add a tad more back, I just drip it in. Now what I try to do is when I mix this up, I always try to have another mold here ready to catch the excess, so I can so I'm not wasting any. So I'll pour the excess in and let that set up. And when you pour over it, if you've got several molds, you pour over it. When you come back and pour the next set over it, it won't leave any marks. I mean, it pours like it was never there. So don't worry about that. Anyway, we're gonna let this set up. It's going to take about 30 minutes, and I'll come back and pull these two pieces out and show you what they look like. Okay guys, here we are a little bit later. Let's see how these two turned out. Anyway, you can see how they just pop out, and now I have a perfect reproduction of the original part. Both the handles are intact. Like I said, you have to keep that piece of wood around to get the air bubbles out, or you would end up with a big air bubble in there. Anyway, they both turned out just about perfect. So anyway, that's a quick video showing you how I do the mold of the parts, and I hope that's informative, and I hope it helps.